video we will show how to use the tire changer to replace tire or inner tube on the front and rear wheels of the Trikke Defender, which are motors. They have this cable, okay? Also they have a brake rotor on the side here, like this one, both. So the first thing you're gonna do is to position this, to lock this against the table. Put on the edge and leave this hole hanging out of the table, okay? So to hold this in place, we'll use a clamp, C-clamp. You adjust to the table. Put the clamp away from this enough so the tire and the wheel will not interfere. So you see here we have one knob with a FR for the front wheel and another one with RR on the rear wheel. They have different length on the thread here. Also you have this little 10 millimeters wrench to hold the axle. So you see these three bosses, they will go through three of these holes. You will mount the wheel with the rotor down, and the axle will go through that hole. So you see it will fall in place, and the axle is here in the center. I will use the RR for this wheel, and I will tighten this knob till it stops, and then now I will use this tool to give it a little torque. So the wheel now is secure against the bracket here. The next step will be to remove the air from the inner tube. You can do by just removing the air like this, or if you have this tool here, you can also remove the core, the valve core, that makes sure that all the air gets out of the inner tube. Okay, very quick. So now we have to break the bead here from the rim. You see this one, the same on the bottom, the same here on the bottom. Okay, so we squeeze the tire will be able to move side to side here, so you get more room. You see, if you squish this side here, the other side gets a lot of room. I will use the lever. Before you do this operation, you can use a little bit of silicone, because when the tire is used tire, it's kind of harder to pull it. So a little bit of silicone will help you to pull this tire off the rim. Okay, you see I'm doing this. I may need a second lever to pull, but not in this case here. Do you see how easy? Okay, remove this one. Now we push the valve in and disconnect the inner tube. So I'm pulling the inner tube, and we'll replace the inner tube if it's punctured, flat. Also, you can, if you are replacing the tire, you will remove the tire. We'll assemble a new tire. These tires are sleek, they are not directional. There's no side, any side will work. Check the rim if there's any sharp edge or anything there, clean. And we will assemble it again. In this case, I'm using petroleum jelly, Vaseline. It's clean, and we'll lubricate the bead of the tire so it will slide and position. So this part here sits on center on this shoulder here. So this is why we want it very well lubricated. So putting the tire back in place, the first part. Now comes the hard part, that is to put this valve through that hole. So I will lift the tire, push the whole inner tube inside, Make sure the tube is not twisted or kinked, so you can see that it's a nice fit there. So now we will push that valve through this hole. See that the inner tube we are using on the inner tube, this washer here, like a rubber washer, kind of, it will prevent the valve to come out of the rim too far. And the reason is we don't want this valve sticking out too far because of the fork. We have a small gap here to the fork. So once it's done there, you make sure the inner tube is not twisted or kinked. By hand, don't use tool here. You see, by hand you will be able to force because of the lubrication. So we just replace the tire. So now you see the valve will not stick out that much because of that rubber washer. I will reinstall the core in the valve. This is a very cheap tool. Don't tight too much, just tight enough to seal. And now we will pump the tire. I will use this electric pump here. You can use any pump. Because it's short, it's easier to use these ones that will tread on the outside of the Okay, so I will put on PSI here, and this one will be 65 PSI, and make sure that it's sitting even around. I can stop here with the low pressure, make sure that everything is even. Okay, the tire is sitting well on the shoulder, and then we finish pumping. Okay, we pumped the rear tire to 65 psi. We disconnect the pump from the valve. Make sure that's not sticking out too far. Let's put the cap, and let's remove this from the stand. So you use this tool to hold it, and you can turn a little bit counterclockwise to lose it. And now I am removing the knob, and we just replaced the tire on this wheel, and now you have to make sure you have the spacers and install the wheel, and this is a separate video. Okay, now we will put these parts back again so we don't lose them for the next time you need it. And so this is just a place for keeping the tools together. And now we'll disconnect the clamp here, and your kit here is everything you need to replace the tire. As I said, silicone spray, the Vaseline, pump, 1 or 2 metal levers that are good, and valve core tool. So we finished replacing the tire.